Hello and welcome to another episode of the In Discussion series. This week I have James with me, who's the videographer and photographer of this year's collection. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
When I first approached you, or well, actually when Josh first approached you in terms of thinking about coming on board to be part of this year's collection, what was the ultimate reason that made you come on board?
Wow. The ultimate reason is you said, let's do it. Let's go ahead. But I personally absolutely love working with small businesses, particularly because there's so much innovation, there's so much creativity, room to offer some ideas and some advice and to kind of have it received. And there's a lot of collaboration involved in projects like this.
Yeah.
So I was really excited. I was really keen. And obviously I love Josh, and any friend of Josh is a friend of mine. So and Josh said he was going to be involved as well. So I was particularly keen. I just thought it would be a really good environment to be in. The fashion is great. The colors are great. So I was really excited to be involved.
Speaking about this when Josh was on as well, about the idea of creating a community and people that have worked with other people, and so that makes it a little bit easier to say yes to people because there's already an element of a relationship there, and there's a bit less worry going into a project, which also makes everything else nice and simple as well.
I think you're right, because people hire people.
Yeah.
People hire, and especially people hire people they know. And then what's the classic saying is, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly.
You got a reference.
Yeah.
Already. Okay, are they worth working with? I've worked with them. I know them. They're good. They're worth getting involved with. For me, yeah, I was really privileged to be involved with it, and I'm so happy. I think the photos, especially, blown away of how good they came out, especially considering we went on a grey, rainy day. Everyone was like a bit apprehensive. Was it going to rain? What was it going to be like? But I feel like we just made the most of it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, the weather in and of itself actually became a benefit to the day, definitely.
Yeah.
So of the whole experience, you've been involved in multiple elements. As I said, you were the videographer as well as the photographer. We had lots of kind of behind the scenes elements as well. What's been the best part of the entire experience for you?
I think seeing the photos come to life, and Josh said, "Oh, could you send me a couple? I want to see what they look like." And I sent them, and he sent me a text back, and it was like, "Oh my God, these are fucking brilliant." And that meant so much. I was so happy that he'd said that, and I was like, "Oh, that's really made me feel so happy." For me, I just think every single photo looks incredible. I just feel like I'm so happy with the way that it's come out, and I think your direction on the day was phenomenal. It was such a benefit to have you, even just the little movements that you would move people into, just changing the way that the dresses or something flowed, things like that. Just the vision that you had, and I thought what was so nice is you gave such subtle bits of advice to people. It just worked so beautifully. It worked so well. But yeah, I mean, I'm so happy with the photos. The videos are great as well. I wish I did the videos on the day.
Yeah, looking back, time and I think the drama of nearly having to finish meant that everything just felt like, oh, it's just glad, yeah, we know we've got some good stuff. Let's maybe call it there, like hedging our bets almost. But looking back, I agree. I think it would have been really good to have had that idea of the video on the day. I had the vision for that as well. And that's something to think of next time, like planning forward and making sure there's enough time and everybody's got the energy to do something like that as well. But the ones we did, I think are still great. So.
Good. I like them as well. I like the transitions. The ones that you've done as well have been really good. It's interesting, isn't it? Because even though I know if you give something an hour, it's going to take 2.
Yeah.
In my head, things just went so quickly. Yeah. It was so quick. Like this, I got the camera out and we're running around, and then you're changing someone and sorting one bit out, and then we're sort of rotating so quickly. I couldn't believe how quickly it went. And then it was like 4 or 5 hours went like that. And one of the interesting things about the experience was the security guard saying, "You need to let someone know you can't do it without a permit." And then all we had to do was
ring someone.
Yeah. And they were like, "Okay." When does that ever happen?
We were quite blessed, I think, with that story. That was a panic moment to suddenly think, oh gosh, this is going to have to finish.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to rethink, and people are not going to be available. And it was just as simple as someone being like, yeah, it's cool, fine by me. And they weren't even on site. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. That never happens. Permits are so difficult to kind of get, and it's always a bit of a bureaucracy thing. But like, do you know what? That's the most grown-up experience. You know, we'd like to take some photos here, and all you got to do is call up and say we're going to do it.
And interesting, actually, with you mentioning that you thought I had kind of this interesting involvement with the subtle elements of contribution and direction. Josh disagreed slightly and thought I would have been kind of a bit more hands-on and a bit more involved with maybe those two ideas in mind, but particularly thinking about it from your perspective. Is there anything that you think I could have done differently?
I do sort of feel like with marketing, promotion, with photography, with video, there's not really a one size fits all kind of way of doing things. So I do feel like a lot of it is trial and error, and a lot of it is like adapting to like your style and other people's style. A great example is like, I think it's not Ridley Scott, it's Stanley Kubrick. As a director, he used to hire an actor because he really liked them as an actor and how they acted, and he would just say act better. You know, the direction wasn't particularly grand, but eventually he got what he wanted and he got like the best out of people. And then someone else might want to change or get every single element of the movement and everything that you do and everything that you say precisely to a point that they would like, and it would be like a very hands-on approach. And neither of them are right or wrong. That's the way they work best. So for me, I definitely couldn't say that you could have done better. It felt like to me everything flowed very well. So it would be I'm not sure how I would offer any advice, because it felt very good. For me, it felt very good.
Yeah.
It felt really good. You were letting people do movements that they felt comfortable in, and then you would offer like little bits of advice as can you do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a very good directing technique that you had on set.
But I think the main thing in my mind, and I like all of these bits of advice that I'm getting, because it's really good to shape how things might be done differently in the future as well. But for me, it was very important that, yes, I got what I wanted, but that everybody else didn't feel stifled by that process as well, because at the end of the day, we're a big bunch of creatives at the same time. And so losing someone else just to get something that I was very particular about didn't quite feel like I would have got the best out of that person, that same sort of thing. And so I really like the idea of allowing people to flourish in the scope of the brief, so everybody kind of gets something out of it.
Did you notice anything that you'd like to change on set?
Possibly actually maybe being less of a backseat person. I think, interestingly, I was having this thought the other day. I sometimes still feel a bit of imposter syndrome, even though this is my thing I've created and I'm putting it out to the world and I'm bringing other people into it. I still have this thing of like, oh, other people have more experience and more knowledge, and therefore I'm going to let them take a little bit more of the driving seat. And so in future, I would like to maybe have somebody that acted like the assistant that I sort of almost took the role of, with helping people change, making them sure they were comfortable. Having someone else being that person, so I'm fully in directing experience, still doing what I like to do, which is allow people to have their time and kind of bring their experience into it, but perhaps then being a little bit more interactive and involved in that. Almost like a harmony, the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I think that would be the best as well, because when you have the opportunity to like focus wholeheartedly on kind of one area and you don't have to worry about all of the little details like that, you can concentrate so much more on it, so you can kind of get the best out of yourself almost.
Yeah.
When you're sort of split 25% there, 75% there, you are split.
It's always like a bit of worry, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, is this right? Are they okay? That sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited to see how things will progress in the future.
Me too.
I think it is a case. It's just trial and error. And the imposter syndrome is so interesting. I do feel like that feeling doesn't ever go.
No.
Sometimes it does feel a bit like fake it till you make it. I think everyone has that to some degree, because that's the whole thing with the artistic world. There isn't really a right and wrong. There's kind of a spectrum of what is going to work better and work maybe not as well, commercially speaking, but then maybe in more niche circles.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a bit of an interesting one in the imposter syndrome. I think everyone has it, and the fake it till you make it is so prevalent.
Oh, absolutely. With that in mind, and again, thinking about the different elements that we've worked on together, the videos that were a bit more just kind of me and you, the day with the photography aspects, would you recommend that people work with me in the future?
100%. 100%. At every stage of the journey, I just feel like that you've been so innovative and you've taken on so much advice, and anytime someone says, should we try this, should we try that, you're like, let's give it a go. And that's what's so crucial, I feel, in small businesses, that innovation, and it's that ability to adapt and to develop along with the people that are around you. And it gets stifled in bigger organizations. Sometimes everything gets a bit more bureaucratic. So I would say absolutely. I think it's been a fantastic experience. I'm extremely excited to see how things develop and where you go, because also I love the clothes. They look amazing. I think it's just positives.
I don't know what else to add to that. When I wrote this question, and I've asked everybody so far, I was like, I don't want this to feel like I'm tooting my own horn, because I assume if people are going to sit here and do the interview, they're probably going to say yes, but it's not that they have to say yes. And I would really like people to be honest then, even if they're saying yes, would it be in a different capacity, or would it be because of that one particular element that they really enjoyed, or were there other areas that they would do things with me? So this is always really nice to hear, because it then gives me a thing of like, oh no, I am actually then, it almost tackles that imposter syndrome, that I'm broadening my skill set and also collaborating and building this really cool network of people that then I would also want to work with as well. So it's like a two-way thing.
Talk is cheap. And when you spend time with people that say, I've got this idea, I want to do it, and then they do it, and then they do it again and again and again, and they keep pushing, and they're also doing something else on the side. So this is becoming, their side hustle that they want to develop into their main career. That takes so much tenacity. It takes so much tenacity to build a business from the ground up. It takes time, effort, money. So being around and working working with people like that is the best experience to have, because otherwise you have either people that are so far into their own careers in these bigger organizations, and that's also fun to work with, and it's also great, and you get big portfolio pieces and there's more equipment and this, that and the other, but there is a lot of the soul and the spirit in those smaller organizations and those people that are developing that is so special to work with.
Yeah.
And I try to do this as much as I can. As I try to work with smaller businesses because it's so interesting as well hearing their stories.
Yeah.
Because I think, have you done the story of how Ish started?
A little bit, yeah. So when there was the March Meet the Maker hashtag series from a couple of months ago, which is a great thing, another creative setup quite a few years ago, and it's become its own really big entity that connects people. There were elements of the story that kind of came through there. One of the things I actually want to do moving forward, I mentioned this to Josh about working on a cool project, is for a long time there was a written mantra for Ish, like a battle cry almost. It was quite lackluster written, so I want to turn that into almost an art video in a way that would then tell their story. So it may be that we work together on that as well.
That'd be brilliant. I think it's a really good idea.
There are a lot of images from the shoot, and I actually ended up having all of them, which was really unexpected. It was very interesting when you said you were going to send everything across, and I originally thought you meant that you were just going to send me the edited contact sheet. And I was like, oh gosh, that's already like a lot of images. And then you sent me something like over 3,000.
It's a lot, isn't there?
And I was like, oh my goodness. And then having kind of gone through those, and some of those have become the GIF content and some extra kind of ways of showing like a really interesting visual story through motion as well. I definitely struggle to think about what a favorite image is, but do you have one?
There's definitely a few. Yeah, I think I had so many images and I liked them so much. And I think because when we were doing the shoot, so much work came in for me that everything was piling up. And I really didn't want you to think that I was pushing any of your work to the back of the queue. It wasn't that. It was like I was having such long days on shoots that getting back and editing and things like that was becoming more and more difficult because I wanted to focus my head into it. And I actually thought, you know, it'd be a really nice gift. And I'm sorry this has taken so long to say, yeah, please do take them all. Because also I love them as well. And the photos are great. So, you know, if you can get use out of them, it's better than sitting on my hard drive.
Yeah.
My favourite ones were the ones with the dress where you whipped them up and then ran away. Those are my favourite. I think they're great. I love the ones with Josh when he's doing this.
Yes, get the orange jacket.
Yeah, big fan of those. I love the ones when they're all together.
They were some of the sweetest ones.
Yeah.
They were the one, it was on the website, I think I've switched it now, but where they're just all laughing.
Yeah.
And it's so sweet and so like, it's the epitome of the day, I felt. That representation, I think, is what I really enjoy capturing, or being part of the capturing of it. That's possibly my favourite one, actually, thinking about it now.
Did they all know each other prior to? Or was it?
No.
Everyone was kind of just meeting that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think I was just chatting with you, so I didn't really know if they were chatting behind. I couldn't really work out. But yeah, it took a little bit of time, and then when the jokes started flowing and like everyone started to have a good time, that's when the really natural faces and smiles were really coming into. It was a really lovely day. It was a really, really nice day. It's a shame it wasn't sunny, but you're right. It did actually end up playing into our advantage because I think it makes everything pop.
Yeah, it's what is really interesting actually thinking about the last collection as well, what sets it apart. Not only the location and the models and the kind of vibe that the pieces are giving off, but also those very different representations of the use of the light and the textures that were there. I really liked that it didn't feel just another version of what had come before. It is its own thing within the brand identity itself. So there's some cool stuff there. It's almost now I feel like I've got to meet that the next time round as well.
I'm sure you will.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this process, for the creations with the videos, the photos, the constant communication. I think for me, that was a really nice thing to have, that almost reassurance that I knew I was working with people that were on board, they were listening, they were kind of receptive, and they were in contact as well. But yeah, thank you for kind of everything.
Pleasure. Loved it.
Thank you for tuning in. Check out the next episode when it goes live. Bye.
Bye-bye.